Okay, where am I? Dorm room. Yeah, that was familiar. There's me. What the remember the show. Okay. Fact 1. Pictures. Super 8. College. What a joke. Corwin. Co-host. Turn around, jack off. What the fuck?
Dude, what are you doing? We got a show to film. Come on, get over here.
Welcome back to the Overtly Critical Film Show. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Corwin.
And we're two film students, and every week we watch a movie that one of us hasn't seen, and we try to learn something from it. And this week, we watched one hell of a movie, and that was Memento.
Memento by Christopher Nolan.
Yep, and it stars Guy Pearce, probably the only thing he's ever been in, the lady from The Matrix, and a guy I've never heard of who kind of sounds like Bill Burr.
I know I've seen him in something, but I can't place what it is. I know I've seen him in something, and it's bugging the hell out of me.
He's Teddy. Or is he not Teddy?
It's true.
The film starts with a Polaroid photograph of a dead man. As the sequence plays backwards, the photo reverts to its undeveloped state, entering the camera before the man is shot in the head. The film continues, alternating between black and white and color sequences. The black and white sequences begin with Leonard Shelby, a former insurance investigator, in a motel room speaking to an unknown caller. Leonard has interrograde amnesia and is unable to store recent memories, the result of an attack by two men. Leonard explains that he killed the attacker who raped his wife, Catherine, but a second clubbed him and escaped. The police did not accept that there was a second attacker, but Leonard believes the attacker's name is John G. or James G. Leonard investigates using notes, Polaroid photos, and tattoos. Leonard recalls Sammy Jenkins, another man who suffered from amnesia from his insurance industry days. After tests confirmed Sammy's inability to learn tasks through repetition, Leonard believed that his condition was at best psychological and perhaps faked, and turned down his insurance claim. Sammy's distraught wife repeatedly asked Sammy to administer her insulin shots for her diabetes, hoping he would remember and would stop himself from giving her a fatal overdose. However, Sammy continued to administer the injections, and his wife died.
The color sequences are shown reverse chronologically. In the show's chronology, Leonard self-directively gets a tattoo of John G's license plate. Finding a note in his clothes, he meets Natalie, a bartender who resents Leonard because he wears the clothes and drives the car of her boyfriend, Jimmy Grants. After understanding Leonard's condition, she uses it to get Leonard to drive a man named Dodd out of town and offers to run a license plate as a favor.
Fuck Leonard. Dodd beat the shit out of me.
Why?
Meanwhile, Leonard meets with a contact, Teddy, who helps with Dodd, but warns about Natalie. Leonard finds that he had previously annotated his Polaroid of Teddy, warning himself not to trust him. Natalie provides Leonard with a driver's license for a John Edward Gamble, Teddy's full name, confirming Leonard's information on John G. and his warnings. Leonard drives Teddy to an abandoned building, leading to the opening where he shoots him.
After hearing Teddy confess all of this, Leonard burns a photograph of dead Jimmy and, in the monologue, explains that he is willing to lie to himself in order to get justice against anyone who has wronged him. He therefore targets Teddy by ordering a tattoo of Teddy's license plate number and writing a note to himself that Teddy is not to be trusted, that he will mistake Teddy for John G. and kill him. Leonard drives off in Jimmy's car, confident that, despite his lie, he will retain enough awareness of the world to know that his actions have consequences. That was in order. That's not the way it was presented in the movie. I've seen it before. You haven't. So what were your first impressions, first words, first thoughts?
So I've seen a lot of Christopher Nolan movies before. My favorite movie of all time is Interstellar. And I love the way he can tell a story. And a lot of people, they talk about Christopher Nolan movies like Inception and Memento being too confusing to understand. I've never found that to be the case. I think he's a master of being able to tell a story in an unusual way, and this is no exception. You're told every event from the end and the beginning, cross-cut to the middle, but it makes sense because they end each scene where the last scene began, so you can put it together in your head by the time the scene ends, even if you're confused at the start. Right. And it really blew me away. It was phenomenally done.
The first time that I watched it, now this is my third time watching it, and one thing that I noticed too is that every time I watch it, I not that I find something new, but things make more sense to me. But the first time that I watched it, I was pretty speechless. I was kind of blown away because at the end I was like, there's so many possibilities. Like a guy with an illness like this. I mean, there's so many people that can lie to him and manipulate him, and like there were so many things that I was like, wow, maybe that's a possibility. Now that I've watched the movie a couple times, I know that there is a definite plot and events that happened, but it's still, the first time I saw it, it was kind of this like bewildering thing. Like, I can't believe somebody came up with that shit. It was great. So those are my first impressions. Now, to get into our discussion, the story, the script aspect of it, as we mentioned, it's told not even like even out of order, but it's just backwards. Every scene moves forward, but the sequence of the scenes is backwards.
People who watch this, we have a working memory. We remember every event, but by screwing up the order of events, it deprives us of the same information that Lenny is deprived of. And so it really just, we're learning sort of, it's not really as he's learning, but
Wife called him Lenny.
That's true. His wife
called him Lenny.
He hated it. He really hated it.
Like
He makes great point of saying that.
He does. Yeah, I mean, the story structure, it's so smart. I mean, it really does. It puts you right in his mind, and when you're especially watching it for the first time and you start a scene and you have no idea what's going on. And actually, one of the best examples of that is the scene when he's running. He's like, I'm chasing this guy. Nope, he's chasing me.
Yeah, right after he almost gets shot by him. It's great. It's really, there's a lot of sort of little bits of comedy. Your favorite line.
Oh my.
Fuck Leonard. Dodd beat the shit out of me.
God, yeah, I'll get into that in a little bit.
Which helps, with levity with this movie, which is, very dark, the concept. Especially by the end, it gets incredibly dark.
Yeah, one of my favorite aspects of it is that a lot of other movies do this, but because of the way it is structured, you start the movie thinking this character might be good, this character might be bad, and then they start to change. So what I noticed is that in the beginning, you're like, oh, okay, Leonard's our protagonist, right? He's kind of the victim. Teddy kind of right away seems a little shady because, he's this, John G guy, and Natalie seems like the ally to him. And then as you get towards the middle of the movie where my favorite line comes and she's like, Dodd beat the shit out of me. We saw that whole scene where she took advantage of his illness, and we realized, oh, she's the bad one.
Oh my God, that scene blew me away.
But then
that was like, when I was writing down my notes, I just wrote like best scene in the movie next to the description, because it just was like, that was when I first realized, like, as an audience member, we can't trust everyone in this. We really can't.
How many people have done that before?
Exactly. And it just throws you.
So she does that, but then if you actually look at the plot of the movie, maybe Natalie isn't the bad guy because Leonard killed her boyfriend, stole his car, stole his clothes, and she's like, I'm going to use this guy to get this guy that's trying to kill me. And then we find out that Teddy, who is actually John G, is helping him, but he's also kind of taking advantage of his illness because he's saying, well, whatever, I mean, I can help him find the same guy and get some drug money at the same time. And then the ultimate mindfuck of the movie is that at the end we find out even Leonard is taking advantage of himself. Because he is setting the stage that his future self will be confused into thinking he didn't kill John G. And it's crazy. It's great. I thought the dialogue was great. Obviously, it's a pretty serious movie, but everyone's believable. There's a lot of sincerity, and Guy Pearce is great in this movie. He's excellent. Like, you really believe what he's saying. And then I guess this might be for trivia section, but an even cooler fact that I found out, basically all the black and white stuff in the movie was improvised. Not just his stuff, but pretty much everything Sammy Jenkins said in the movie was improvised by the actor, who I guess had experience with actual memory loss before. So, but the dialogue was real. Like when Leonard's going off on like tangents about like what he believes and his wife and everything, you really believe him. And then there's also good moments. Like Teddy's pretty funny, and there's a lot of humor that's used, even by Leonard sometimes about, you want to write this down, and he's like, no, you really want to write this down. Like, there's some comedy, and it felt pretty human to me.
The performances are flawless in this movie. There was really no point I was thinking, like, oh, I'm watching a movie, or like, that's a good performance. You get totally lost in it, which especially when you start studying film more and you're tuned into a lot of the aspects of what makes a film, it becomes harder to get lost in movies, and you just get lost in this movie. You really do.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to touch on this movie has some really great foreshadowing in it that you don't realize is foreshadowing until the end, of course, but just the scene with Natalie is probably the clearest example for the end when it's revealed that Teddy has been screwing with Lenny for a while. We have that set up with, Natalie does that in that one scene to get what she wants from Lenny to kill Dodd. But my favorite little bit of foreshadowing is in one of the scenes. I think it's the last scene that we see with Sammy Jenkins is in the hospital. A nurse passes him by, and the final frame you see Lenny there.
Yeah.
You don't see Sammy Jenkins, and when I'm watching that, I'm thinking, oh, that's great editing to make us draw the connection. But then by the end, it makes so much sense.
Yeah. To me, there's one particular thing, and as these images have been scrolling by, hopefully it's something you notice, and hopefully one of those
I love that shot, by the way.
That's a good one. Hopefully the image will come up in a minute, a couple of them. The one thing I noticed about this movie when watching it over and over and over, it has focus on two colors, blue and gray.
I noticed the blue, I didn't notice the gray.
Everything... Leonard's eyes are blue. Natalie's eyes are blue.
The shirt he wears.
Paint
on the wall.
Tattoos.
The
motel doors. The motel railings. His car or Jimmy's car that he takes. Leonard's truck is blue. In the bar that Natalie works, everything's blue, including the sofa and the lighting. And there's a couple things I know that I'm forgetting. The bed sheets in his motel. His pen, I'm pretty sure, it might be black. But almost everything in the movie has this blue to it, and as I kept looking and noticing, I was like, wow. And the gray plays into it because the motel walls are gray, his suit jacket is gray.
Half the movie is in grayscale, which is just that's an editing choice I love, because again, this whole thing where I defend that Nolan knows how to tell a story in a complex way. He has the scenes going in forward in time and backwards in time, visually separated by the color, so you don't confuse them.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a great choice.
Yeah, and it's actually, the thing that I was laughing about is that this movie's color tone is almost opposite of Falling Down, because that was a really orange, warm movie.
Yes.
And it's literally the opposite. Obviously, the big thing, there's black and white and color sequences. That's kind of interesting.
If I can actually jump in, I've got the biggest thing I noticed, and of course this is, a symptom of taking lighting class right now, is Lenny especially, and most of the characters, are always have a dark half of the face and light half of the face. Almost always. With the exception of, not really, but what we're led to believe are flashback scenes with Sammy Jenkins. In that scene, it's a much softer lighting, and the face is more evenly lit, whereas almost every time you see Lenny and most of the other characters, it's very stark. There's shadow on one face, on one side, there's light on the other.
In the black and white scenes when he's in his hotel room, kind of the only light really coming in, at least, from the story perspective, is from the window. And I'm pretty sure he has the shades a little closed. And all of those scenes, you feel like he's in solitude. This movie has a lot of close-ups because it's a really detail-oriented movie. Lots of writing, the pictures, everything. There's a lot of fine detail in the movie, because he's trying to remember all these things. So there's a lot of close-ups.
I also love just how Christopher Nolan uses moving shots so well and so just subtly and comfortably. I'm kind of the belief I don't want a shot moving unless there's purpose to the movement. I hate free cam stuff, freehand. I think it just looks bad. Unless, it's like Blair Witch Project or something, and that's the point. But his camera moves are perfect. They're invisible. They really, you don't notice them at all.
Well, good, because I didn't notice them at all. It's a good thing you brought that up. There's a lot of, it's technically like a thriller movie as well as a mystery. So there's a lot of what's going to happen kind of stuff. But a lot of the scenes don't have music, or at least not noticeable music. But the one audio aspect of the movie that's not music is the narration of Lenny's head. Where am I? I'm in this hotel room, he's looking at the bottle. He's like, I don't feel drunk, and that's
the end, the monologue at the end.
Right, that too. It really just plays into, just the fact that, you're really in his head in the movie. So that narration that he gives all throughout, in that scene with Natalie, find a pen. I need a pen. Where's a pen? Write this down. Don't forget it. He's trying to talk to himself and make himself not forget.
The entire movie, you're in the headspace of Lenny. It's a very first-person movie. You're never given like a different angle of a different character, because so much of the movie relies on what Lenny doesn't know as the audience finds out and gets the full story. Of course, the full story that Lenny will never have. He will never know the full story of what happened.
Right.
The limited edition DVD and the standard Region 2 edition allows the movie to be watched in the exact chronological order of the events of the film. Christopher Nolan's screenplay was based on his brother Jonathan Nolan's story, Memento Mori. However, the screenplay is still considered original rather than adapted, because Jonathan's story was not published until after the film was completed. All of the dialogue in black and white sequences that feature Sammy was improvised. The film took 25 days to shoot. After being impressed by Carrie-Anne Moss's performance as Trinity in The Matrix from 1999, Jennifer Todd suggested her for the part of Natalie. While Mary McCormick lobbied for the role, Christopher Nolan decided to cast Moss as Natalie, saying, "She added an enormous amount to the role of Natalie that wasn't on the original page." Although the opening scene is literally shown backwards, every single sound effect is in fact a normal sound effect, forward played. The only sound played backward is Teddy screaming, "No." Many of Leonard's unique voiceovers were improvised by Guy Pearce. According to Christopher Nolan, Carrie-Anne Moss shot her whole part for the film in 8 days. And finally, Memento was considered culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant by the U.S. Library of Congress and was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry in 2017. It is Christopher Nolan's first movie to be preserved in the National Film Registry. It was also the first non-documentary film from the 2000s to be preserved.
Thanks, Super 8, for our trivia. He even has a Polaroid picture today.
Look at that, isn't that cute?
That's a reference to the movie. I don't know if...
Wow, that's not in focus. Whoever took this must not know anything about cameras.
Definitely not a film student.
No, definitely not a film student who took that.
Jesus Lord. Anyway, now that we're done with our intermission section, we're coming back to this. We're gonna do our favorite moments now, or moment from the movie. Memento. Favorite Memento? Oh my God.
And we actually kind of have the same favorite moment from this. So if you want to just lead us into the scene.
Natalie comes into so she comes back into her house. Leonard's staying there, and she decides beforehand that she's gonna screw with him. So she takes his pens and her pens and throws it in her purse so he can't write anything down. And then she just goes up to him and starts ranting. She calls him a retard a bunch of times, calls his wife a whore. And by the way, Leonard has a lot of patience. He sat there and took that a lot. He's like, "You don't know me, you don't know my wife." I'm like, God, this guy's got a lot of patience. And then he finally hit her. He grabs
her face,
grabbed her by the face and pushes her away. She was
leave some marks on her face.
She was being an asshole. And so she was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm really gonna screw with you now." So she leaves the room, or she leaves her house, and she sits in her car.
And Lenny's looking around for his pens. He's like, "Gotta write this down. Gotta write this down." And then he can't. He's like, "What?" Memory kind of resets.
Right. So he's telling himself to remember it, and then again that whole fuzzy, maybe it's a plot hole kind of thing, not explained, but again, whatever. That his memory kind of.
Hey, perfect timing.
There we go.
Look
yeah.
At that.
Fucking whore. Yeah. So and then his mind does this kind of reset thing, and then he's back to like if a scene started, which is the first time we ever see that process in the movie, by the way. So that's a first for that, but it's also a first where we see her come back and then make up a story about, oh, the marking on my face isn't from Lenny just grabbing my face. It's from Dodd, who beat the shit out of me. And
we got to put that in every time you say that.
Dodd beat the shit out of me.
That scene was great because not only does it reveal something about Natalie's character, at least from that perspective.
It's also such a portrayal because going backwards chronologically, but forward in time for the movie, where we're led to believe that she cares a lot for him. She's helping him. She takes pity on him, and it's just such portrayal. They're like in bed together. It's never shown if they have sex or anything, but she seems to be like a comforting figure for him, and this is it's just such a reveal, and it's a realization that people could be fucking with him this whole time, and he could have no idea.
And what's even more fucked up is, referencing the fact that they were in bed together, realizing that happens after this.
Yep.
Because that is the second scene of Natalie in the movie. They're sleeping together, and so that happens after all of this shit. You have a big crush on her.
That's true. She is a very attractive actress.
I
can't lie. She's attractive.
I should have put her name up. But going back to that Natalie scene, I think the only other time at that point where we had seen someone actually mess with him was when the guy at the hotel was caught.
Booked him extra room.
Yeah, put him in another
to give
room.
money.
The first thing is, will we recommend the movie? I certainly would.
Oh my god, yeah. It really is as good as people say it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly one of those movies that you have to see because it's so out there, it's so different. I really enjoyed getting your reactions to it as well as Dan's too.
At the end, I just was like, for the entire time, I'm not even kidding. The ending blew me away.
Yeah. But one thing I didn't talk about with the last movie, I think this movie didn't feel too long because I was so sucked into it, even though it's 2 hours and there's no big action other than the car chase with Dodd. I mean, there's really no big action in the movie, but I never felt bored. There was
It's interesting because I never felt bored either. I didn't feel like it was dragging, but it definitely felt long. I remember at one point where we had to pause it, and I was like, oh, wow, we're only halfway through. And my reaction wasn't so much, oh, God, we're only halfway through. It was more, wow, there's a lot more here than I thought there was.
There's so much more
a lot more to tell in this story.
So anyway, what I learned, my takeaway from the movie, and I tried to make this as sort of a sentence as possible, and it might feel a little general and stereotypical, but whatever. But specifically in this case, it was the way that they edited the movie, thinking outside the box, finding any possible way, break any rule you can to put your audience in the mind of the character. So in this movie, they obviously did it through editing because they just chopped up the movie and played it that way. But just as a general term, I mean, this movie does this better than any movie I've ever seen before. And one fact before you get into that, what you're going to say, I read that they even show this movie. Scientists like this movie, like neurologists, psychologists, they like this movie and they think it's accurate.
That's a big thing Christopher Nolan does. He's very good at getting the science right in his movies. Again, talking about Interstellar because I'm a giant freaking nerd for that movie. Their depiction of a black hole was so accurate that scientists watched it and said, oh my God, that's how it would work. And it changed the science going forward. He's brilliant about that.
Good, yeah. And it's great to see people putting thought into the movie. What do you say you learned from the movie, you took away from it?
Again, kind of great minds think alike, I guess, building off of your point of how it's edited. If there's a way that you want to tell a story, but the common conventions of storytelling are standing in your way and you think it's impeding you, you don't have to tell a story the way everyone tells a story. You can. This is a perfect example. He wanted to tell a story about a guy who has terrible memory loss, and he wanted the audience to be constantly in the head of the main character. So how do you stop an audience from remembering things? You tell it in reverse.
Yep.
And that way we don't know when we don't remember what he has forgotten. We don't know what he has forgotten. And it's great. It's a brilliant choice, and it's why this movie is so stand out, the editing. That's why.
Great.
You don't have to do things the way everyone else is doing them.
Welcome to Funny Notes, where I was told a very constructive criticism, and now I have to organize them. Well, the first one I have here is the main character transforms into Ryan, our lovely host.
He doesn't fucking look like me.
He looks like you. I don't know why I put this. I just put a little more nudity. I think my brain was just done, but I think I really wanted more nudity. I want to see what's under those pants, those beautiful shaven legs. Would you fuck any of the characters? Corwin, would you fuck any of the characters in the movie?
Leonard, because he looks like me.
Leonard. Rest in peace, car window door, driver's side. Now, where's his income gonna come now? Since Teddy's dead, he's fucked. Maybe he'll go back to Natalie and get some nice little
Watching thanks to Super 8 and
Super 8,
and
you beautiful boy.
Yeah.
We love Super 8 here.
Yeah,
We do.
Great. And props to us for getting moving images this week.
Yeah, our budget increased or something, or at least our creativity did.
And
All right.
And not sponsored by Mountain Dew.
Not
Okay.
sponsored by Mountain Dew. We're going to blur that out.
Bye.
Bye. See you next week.